There are dramatic scenes on the streets of Seoul as we go to air this morning, with the South Korean president sensationally backing down just hours after he sent shockwaves through the country by declaring martial law. Hundreds of protesters descended on Parliament as police blockaded the entrance following that initial declaration.
Inside, MPs appeared to clash with troops attempting to enter before the opposition called enough of them together to force the president to back down. It has been a very fast developing situation. Our North Asia correspondent James Oaten is following it all for us. James, OK, talk us through what exactly happened overnight.
Good morning. Well, as you can see behind me, the sun is now rising and it's 6 o'clock local time in South Korea. And it's amazing to think there's some people waking up now and reading the news and thinking, what on earth happened last night? Because it was only around 11 o'clock, just before midnight, that President Yoon Suk Yeol announced that he was going to impose martial law, which is essentially a form of military-style government used for extreme circumstances when the civilian government cannot function. It means there's a lot of sweeping restrictions put on people, their right to gather, sweeping restrictions on politicians and the media. But what was the reason? Well, he cited it was regarding threats from North Korea. Now, relations between North and South Korea are pretty hostile, but there's been nothing in the past few days that would seem as an obvious justification for this decision. What many observers are saying is this was an extreme attempt to break a political deadlock. President Yoon Suk Yeol is from the Conservative People Power Party, but the parliament is controlled by the opposition left-leaning Democratic Party. And he's been unable to get the legislation through that he's wanted. The budget recently was massively chopped down in size, and there's been a lot of corruption allegations against his administration, including his own wife, for accepting a Dior bag. So he announced this decision, martial law, at 11 o'clock. Perhaps it was trying to get the opposition off foot because everyone should have been asleep by that time. The military and police moved in, surrounded the National Assembly. We've seen some pretty violent scenes there. But the opposition did get their members into Parliament and they voted unanimously to scrap martial law. It's a little tense for a while, but eventually the military did step down and the president said he would acknowledge or he would adhere to that vote and would scrap martial law, which has now happened. So it's still, it's something to watch now, given the violence or the uncertainty we've seen overnight. Certainly, Australia's Finance Minister Katie Gallagher had this warning for Australians who are in South Korea.
Message we can give on this unfolding situation is for any Australians in South Korea to really listen to official advice and, not stay away from some of the mass gatherings as we continue to get across and understand the full implications of what's happened overnight.
So we have seen some pretty vocal protests overnight, and it should be expected that these protests will continue even though martial law has been revoked. I guess the big question now that needs answering is, what was President Yoon thinking? What was his grand plan here in imposing martial law only to backflip a few hours later? No doubt this will have a huge detrimental impact on his popularity, which is already extremely low, and his reputational damage will take a long time to recover from this.